Chicago, Alderman Raymond Lopez. Great to have you here, Alderman. So, Illinois Senator Dick Durbin said this afternoon that sending the National Guard would be, quote, an unconstitutional abuse of power. The governor, as you heard, just said that none of this is about fighting crime or making Chicago safer. It's just a big show. What's your reaction to those comments?
I think everyone on all sides, Elizabeth, has been putting on a big show for the better part of 2 weeks now. We know that there's a perception that people are not safe in the city of Chicago. Residents do not feel safe in the city of Chicago. They're worried when they drop their kids off at school, when they go to work, when they sit on their front porches looking in and admiring the summertime weather. Everyone's worried that they're going to be robbed, carjacked, or shot in the city of Chicago. And if the mayor and the governor continue to say crime is down, crime is decreasing, everything's great, then why don't we take Donald Trump up on his offer and go even further, decrease the numbers even further, the way that they've been decreased in Washington, D.C.?
Well, I don't think anybody's saying everything's great. I think they're just saying it's not as bad as the president is saying it is. It's not a hellhole or a killing field.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with the president's comments that we're the worst, the murder capital of the world, but we do have our challenges. Yes, arguably and provably false. But at the same time, we do know that many of our residents live in a state of fear, a state of panic and anxiety about the crime that they perceive all around them. We had 2 young teenagers shot in my ward on the same day that Governor Pritzker and Mayor Johnson said we don't need help. Of course we need help. We need the actual presence of the National Guard to focus on the assets of the city so that our police can go into the communities and go after those individual gang members, drug dealers, and human traffickers that we know are here, and use the full force of government to go after them. That is absolutely something we should be working towards.
Yeah, you said it's, quote, absolutely asinine that your Democratic colleagues aren't saying, okay, bring in the Guard. My question to you is, what do you want the National Guard to do given the legal restrictions?
Look, we don't expect the National Guard to focus on policing. We know that's constitutionally impossible. But what they can do is provide uniform presence at some of our city's assets like the Buckingham Fountain, Navy Pier, Magnificent Mile, where we currently have police officers who could be patrolling neighborhoods, sitting around in their beat cars for 8 hours a day. Those officers should be in neighborhoods focusing on those magnets of violence that we know, while we let the National Guard protect the art museum. That's perfectly fine with me.
You had a terribly high number of shootings just this past weekend in Chicago, 58. The mayor of Chicago said this afternoon that it was guns that were to blame, and he then went on to blame red states for this problem, for selling the guns to criminals in Chicago. As he put it, quote, for every murder in Chicago, there's a gun trafficker in Mississippi who is profiting off our pain. What do you make of that?
You know, I'm actually quite surprised he didn't blame the Confederacy, Richard Nixon, or colonialism for why we have all the problems in the city of Chicago, because those are also his go-tos. We have serious problems with individuals who are committed to a lifestyle that only leads in death and destruction. We've seen where 2,000 high-priority targets were shipped here from Texas who were granted asylum at the border by the previous administration, who they vetted and identified as threats not only to our city, but to our country. And we have missed every opportunity to work with the federal government to remove those individuals from our streets. Now, rather than signing a protection order against the federal government, we should be working with Donald Trump to see how we can find some commonality in focusing on how to make Chicago streets safe again.
Trump said this afternoon that he wants Governor Pritzker to call him. Today, Governor Pritzker said the Illinois State Police got a call, but here's the problem. You know, we've got Trump saying, I want Pritzker to call me, and Pritzker saying, nobody's called me. I mean, it's a simple thing. You know, you can get on the phone and talk, right?
You know, Bell learned that phones work both ways for receiving and placing calls, and we need to know how to do that as well. It's shameful, really, because that's what actually is driving a lot of the concern with what we're seeing going on, is that this is all a political performance on both sides. Because either one of these 2 leaders, or 3 leaders, if you include Brennan Johnson, could easily communicate with the other and say, what do we need to do to make this right? How can we mitigate what we're going to see over the next few weeks? And how can we coordinate our efforts? But none of the 3 want to do that. They'd rather get into these social media TikTok battles with each other, arguing over who's the worst threat to democracy. And all the while, the people of Chicago, those who are most impacted by violence on the south and west sides and in neighborhoods at all points in between, have nowhere to go and no answers from the leaders that they've elected.
And finally, we did have confirmation, NewsNation did, that there are apparently ICE agents who are on their way to Chicago as we speak. ICE agents are moving in, but not the National Guard. All the conversation here has been about crime and the murders in Chicago. Most of those crimes are committed by American residents living in Chicago, gang members in Chicago, drug dealers in Chicago. They're not being committed by illegal immigrants, at least the vast majority of them. ICE agents are on the way. You say you want the National Guard there, not ICE agents, or both?
Well, I've already led the charge to allow our police officers to work with federal
ICE
immigration officers. Yes, when individuals who are non-citizens choose to engage in specific dangerous criminal activities. We also know, as I said earlier, that the Biden administration allowed over 2,000 individuals whom they vetted, who were identified as serious dangers not only to our city but to our country, to be allowed to come to the city of Chicago. So if ICE can work to identify those individuals who are also the groundswell of where the human trafficking and drug sales are coming from, then so be it. That they'd be more than welcome in our communities.
All right, Alderman Raymond Lopez, representing the 15th Ward of Chicago, which is on the west side of Chicago, a Democrat, I might point out. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.